The Color of Home, Book 1, Seeing Red by Sean Clark. Chapter 1, The Discovery of Home. If man's exploration of the stars was to amplify one fact about the universe, it would be that nothing is permanent. The journey from one star system to another used to endure the length of one's entire lifespan, and the path set out on by one generation could only be terminated by the next. However, as the technology developed to cross the threshold of faster-than-light travel, man was soon able to form memories that spanned multiple planets and multiple existences. This ever-advancing haste by the galaxy's colonizers, however, put many in a state of mind that the things they possessed, and the concepts they held, and the truths they believed would always be there for them, as well as those coming after. But in the inky vastness and perpetuity of the galaxy, everything that begins must also end. In the Saku system, the location of a few uninhabited but acceptable planetoids, the existence that the original settlers there thought they had found at long last was one of peace. The system itself was bordered on one side by a band of young stars containing little more than rocky, uninhabitable planets and passing space dust. On the opposite side, facing away from the center of the galaxy, was an even vaster expanse of pure nothingness. The settlers came on a colony ship called the Vat, departing a life that is now mostly lost from the pages of history. Among the 6 planets of the system, a sole one caught their eye, 5H-3.1-6-005. In plane classification, breathable atmosphere and adequately temperate, third from the system's sun with 1 satellite and an assumed intelligent life index of 5. What mattered to the Vat's passengers was that it was a place they could call their own once and for all. 5H-3.1-6-005 from space appeared to be desolate and rust-stained, but in fact was very much different upon landing. Much of the planet was thick with vast jungles of red fauna, giving the land its distinct outward appearance from the atmosphere and beyond. The color of the foliage was the result of an ancient volcano that, at one point, spewed ash and debris across the land, providing a rich base for the primordial organic life. Time immemorial later, the mass would be the host to an immense collection of floral life. The Vat people took little time in spreading across the land, leaving behind the ship they had called their home for many generations. The planet provided all that they needed with little help, and in turn, their settlements and population grew, slowly taming the wild of the planet's surface. Among their findings, they came across the mineral Houmite, a material not unique to 5H-3.1-6-005, but was greatly valuable elsewhere in the galaxy. The precious semiconductor was known in other systems in its raw form as a strong compound for constructing highly destructive explosive weapons. With some refinement and stabilization of the mineral, it became vastly more desirable, used by many advanced civilizations in the creation of faster-than-light drives, used to stabilize spacecraft engines that could cut through space itself. The Vat people, having no desire to create weapons, nor the means to refine the fickle material, left it be. However, in the search for an identity, they took the name of the mineral for their own, officially changing the classification of 5H-3.1-6-005 to something more proper: home. Nearly 500 years passed as the Vat people prospered upon their planet of home, turning their settlements into towns, their towns into cities, and slowly encircling the planet in roads and other forms of infrastructure to connect their people together. Outsiders were cautiously welcomed to the system, and luckily never remained long in the distant insular community. At that point in their history, the Vat were nonetheless already observing how their existence and growth was affecting the planet, with a consideration of keeping home's natural systems in balance, a task that had failed many times over in other systems and on other inhabited planetoids. It was not the Vat, however, that caused the shift in the natural balance of the planet as it became to be known. The natural formation they called Mount Trieste, a massive volcano just north of the planet's equator, awoke again one day with sudden quakes and the opening of rifts in the land. The mountain that was revered in their beliefs as a life-giver and the mother of their civilization was then threatening to destroy all that they had created. The peak began to crumble and shake, and from beneath the ground erupted the once-sealed fury, spewing out lava and fire across the surrounding land and sending blood-colored ash into the sky. While the Vat had undertaken minor leaps back into interplanetary travel, the gravitational pull of the planet was too great, and infrastructure for the mass launches outside the atmosphere was limited. Furthermore, few desired to abandon the civilization their people had worked so hard to build. Mount Triste continued its rampage with no end in sight. The sky was choked with the evil ash, and anything within range of the lava flows was destroyed and buried. People prayed to the mountain, calling for it to stop, but to no avail. When the volcanic activity finally ebbed after many months, most of the atmosphere of the planet was choked with darkness and stifling ash and smoke. In the years after that first eruption, much of the rich land withered to desolate barrens. The majority of the planet's population had migrated to Houm, a city far on the opposite side of the planet from Mount Triste, where there were still remnants of clean air and sunlight. While the volcano continued to act up from time to time, the panic over it eventually subsided. The lives of the Vat people and the atmosphere of the planet were changed irreparably, but many were determined to push on and continue their existence. The sole satellite orbiting home, a moon called Kadal, held on to a thin atmosphere, allowing some of the brave or technically inclined groups of the Vat people to take up residence on its surface. After the eruption of Mount Triste, however, the prospect of a proper settlement on the moon became viable. Those with the money or social standing would soon depart their home planet and find shelter on Kadal, using their resources and know-how to work towards terraforming the moon in hopes of bringing it to a comfortable state of living. Hey guys, Sam and Sean here. If you like the sound of this first chapter of my new book, The Color of Home, stick around, there will be another chapter up, and you can also go and find the entire book up on Amazon. The link is in the description.